Imagine a man who called himself the King of Scotland, who challenged the Queen of England to a swimming race, and who claimed to speak to God in his dreams. Now, imagine this same man was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of his own people. This isn't a character from a movie. This was Idi Amin Dada, the third president of Uganda, a man whose larger-than-life personality masked a reign of unimaginable terror. How does a national hero, a heavyweight boxing champion, and a man admired for his charisma transform into one of history's most notorious tyrants? Today, we're not just telling the story of Idi Amin, we're uncovering the chilling lessons his rule holds for all of us about power, propaganda, and the fragility of a nation. Before becoming the butcher of Uganda, Idi Amin was a rising star in the British colonial army. Born into a small tribe, his imposing physique standing at 6'4" and his boxing prowess quickly caught the eye of his superiors. He was seen as loyal, effective, and perhaps a little simple-minded, which the British thought would make him easy to control. He climbed the ranks, becoming one of only 2 Ugandan officers to be commissioned by the time of Uganda's independence in 1962. His charm was undeniable. He had a way of connecting with ordinary people, projecting an image of a man of the people, a true African nationalist who would finally stand up to foreign powers. This carefully crafted image would become his most powerful weapon, and the people of Uganda would initially embrace him as a savior. In 1971, while then-President Milton Obote was away at a summit, Amin seized his chance. He staged a military coup, justifying it by claiming he was saving Uganda from Obote's corrupt and tribalistic regime. The streets of Kampala erupted in celebration. People danced, cheered, and carried soldiers on their shoulders. They believed a new dawn had arrived. Amin promised to restore democracy, release political prisoners, and hand power back to civilians within a short time. He was a master of public relations, making grand, populist promises that resonated with a population weary of political instability. This is the first crucial lesson: dictators often don't rise to power through force alone. They rise on a wave of popular support. Exploiting legitimate grievances and promising a better future, they tell you exactly what you want to hear. But the honeymoon period was short-lived. Almost immediately, Amin began to consolidate his power with brutal efficiency. He established state-run security agencies like the State Research Bureau and the Public Safety Unit. Their real job, to eliminate anyone perceived as a threat: soldiers, politicians, journalists, academics, judges, religious leaders. Anyone who dared to question him simply disappeared. His regime became a reign of terror, fueled by paranoia and a lust for absolute control. The River Nile became a dumping ground for bodies. Amin's friendly, smiling persona vanished, replaced by an unpredictable and violent tyrant who reportedly took pleasure in the suffering of his victims. He ruled by fear, demonstrating that once absolute power is achieved, the promises made to get there become meaningless. Perhaps the most infamous act of his regime came in 1972, when Amin declared an economic war. He announced that God had come to him in a dream and told him to expel all Asians from Uganda. At the time, the Asian community, mostly of Indian descent, formed the backbone of the Ugandan economy. They were given just 90 days to leave the country, abandoning their homes, businesses, and life savings. Amin claimed he was giving Uganda back to the Ugandans. The businesses and properties were handed over to his cronies and soldiers, who had no idea how to run them. The economy collapsed almost overnight. Shortages of basic goods became rampant. Infrastructure crumbled, and the country spiraled into financial ruin. This provides a stark lesson in the dangers of scapegoating and xenophobic nationalism. By blaming a minority group for the country's problems, Amin distracted the public from his own failings, with catastrophic consequences for everyone. Internationally, Amin was initially seen as something of a buffoon, a comical figure. His bizarre titles, like His Excellency, President for Life, Field Marshal Al-Haji Dr. Idi Amin Dada, DC, DSO, MC, Lord of all the beasts of the earth and fishes of the seas and conqueror of the British Empire in Africa in general and Uganda in particular, were laughed at. He sent absurd telegrams to world leaders and made outrageous claims. But behind the clownish facade, the atrocities continued. The international community was slow to react, partly because Amin's Uganda wasn't seen as strategically important during the Cold War. This inaction teaches a painful lesson: ignoring a dictator, or treating them as a joke, allows their terror to grow unchecked. The world's laughter did nothing to save the hundreds of thousands who perished under his rule. The end for Idi Amin came in 1979. His erratic behavior led him to make a fatal mistake. He invaded neighboring Tanzania. Tanzania's president, Julius Nyerere, who had long opposed Amin's regime, responded with a full-scale invasion, supported by Ugandan exiles. Amin's army, demoralized and poorly managed, crumbled. As Tanzanian troops closed in on the capital, Amin fled. First to Libya and eventually to Saudi Arabia, where he lived in comfortable exile until his death in 2003. He never faced justice for his crimes. The man who had destroyed his nation, murdered its people, and shattered its economy, died peacefully in a hospital bed. His escape from accountability is perhaps the most bitter lesson of all. It reminds us that without a strong international system of justice, the world's worst criminals can simply walk away. So, what do we take away from the history of Idi Amin? First, that charisma can be a mask for tyranny. We must be critical of leaders who make grand promises but lack substance and a respect for democratic institutions. Second, economic and social crises are breeding grounds for extremism. When people are desperate, they are more susceptible to leaders who offer simple solutions and a group to blame. Third, the international community has a responsibility to act. Turning a blind eye to human rights abuses in one country can lead to regional instability and immense human suffering. The story of Idi Amin is not just a tragic chapter in Ugandan history, it is a universal cautionary tale. It's a warning against the lure of the strongman, a reminder to guard our institutions, and a call to never, ever mistake buffoonery for harmlessness. Thank you so much for watching. The history of Idi Amin serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly things can fall apart when the wrong person gains power. What lessons do you draw from his story? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe to Global JDV News for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Stay informed and stay critical.